unjust judge, but I want to be very clear. I consider the NUPW to be the importunate widow. They have been persistent in pushing for this. The unjust judge would have been the last government who did not take them on. We have come to office to make wrong things right. But I want to congratulate the NUPW for their work in pushing this agenda. And to say to them what I know they have recognized. This is a true Labour Party. This is the original Labour Party. This is the true Labour Party. And I think the NUPW, I know they can't say it publicly, probably, but I know that they will understand that this is a party that they can speak to, speak with. The Honourable Member for St. Joseph spoke to the customs officers for. I remember well when that decision was taken. They were representing, we sat in the Senate chamber in Bridgetown, and they represented that these officers were doing the work for many, many years, classified, I think, as clerical officers, but doing the work. The Honourable Member for St. Michael Northeast, the Honourable Prime Minister, as the successor to the Labour Party leaders across from Grantley Adams, determined on that occasion that it was an injustice that needed to be corrected as quickly as possible. And we are able to say today that those officers have been appointed, and even though we had to create the position, Customs Officer 4, to make sure that they were treated with the dignity that they deserved, with which they deserved to be treated. But the matter of the superannuary office, public officers had to wait until there was a vacancy. And Mr. Speaker, in spite of the ramblings you heard just before I spoke, just before I started to speak, it is true that the wheels of government turn very slowly. And there are people who are left hanging, for want of a better word, onto a hope. They're working 1 year after another, after another, after another, but they can't be appointed because they're told there is no vacancy. Not because there's not work to be done, because the people are turning up every day and are doing an honest day's work. But there is no vacancy that has been created. And so they cannot be appointed because you can't be appointed where there is no vacancy. This clause in this bill, Mr. Speaker, moves past that very inhuman approach to industrial relations and human resource management. It says that if you have been working in your position for 3 years, it means that your work is necessary. Because if it wasn't necessary, you wouldn't be there for 3 years. And so if your work is necessary, and if it is not project-based, in other words, if you're not working in a situation that has a clearly defined beginning and end, it means that you are necessary in the position. And so this bill, once passed in both houses of Parliament, will say to those public officers, will say to the Ministry of the Public Service, that you have been acting, you've been doing the work, then your post has been created. It is deemed to have been created, you are appointed in the post. And Mr. Speaker, I think that is a revolutionary aspect of this bill. And like the Honourable Attorney General said, it is probably what was missing in the 2007 bill, but we have sought, because life is about growth, life is about improvement, life is about making sure that if you make a mistake in the past, you can correct it in the future. And so, while we make no claims to perfection or omnipotence, omniscience, we are clear that once we identify weaknesses, once we identify errors, we will make the decision to make the correction as we move forward. And so that has been corrected, and I think we are now on a good path to make sure that the workers of this country are taken care of in the decent way that they ought to be taken care of. I want quickly, Mr. Speaker, before I close, just to mention a few things. There are some issues in the public service that have to be corrected. There are issues of productivity, and in my 2.5 years, almost 2.5 years, working in the public service and with public officers, I've recognized that some of the issues of productivity have to do with leadership in the public service. There are good workers in the public service, excellent workers. As a matter of fact, when I became minister responsible for labor and social partnership relations, as part of my orientation, my officers showed me some of the work that has been done by the ministry and by other ministries. And I said to them, but the public doesn't know about a lot of this work that you have been doing. One of the weaknesses in the public service is that there seems to be, well, there is not officially, but there's some secrecy shroud that stops the public service from sharing a lot of the information widely. Known to a few sometimes, but not shared widely. So there's a lot of good people, and there's good productivity, but there are challenges still. And some of those challenges have to do with leadership within the public service. And I want to call, Mr. Speaker, for a greater focus on the training of those who will lead in the public service. Persons called to serve cannot become leaders only because they've been in a position for the longest period of time. They must, and the Service Commission, Public Service Regulations of 1978 speak very clearly to this. There are a number of areas that have to be taken into consideration. General fitness, seniority, basic educational qualifications, special courses of training, letters of commendation, duties to which the person has knowledge, duties that you're fit for, that you have, that fall within the duties of the post. So that seniority is only one of the areas. And the time has come for leaders to be real leaders. My father told me on a number of occasions that there are persons 40 years old who have 40 years of experience. And there are people 40 years old who have 1 year's experience 40 times. Not everybody who has been around long is capable of going to the next step. And we have to get to the point in the public service, if we are to modernize, if we are to move forward, if we are to move the country to the point where, as we've agreed, we're the best place in the world to live, to work, to do business, to enjoy life, to retire ultimately. If we're to reach that stage, then we have to recognize that in all areas of our country's activity, including in the public service, leadership is going to be important. And that leadership must be leadership that is equipped to motivate, to coach, to guide, and to be effective. So that is an area that needs to be focused on. I have recognized that the lack of leadership is holding back some good public officers who want to soar, who want really to contribute to nation building, but are held back by people who feel that their incompetence is going to be shown up. There are not many of them, but there are enough to cause us to have to pay some attention to that area. Leadership and allowing younger or more capable, even sometimes older people, to really do what they are supposed to do. There's an area that I must speak to before I sit, and it relates directly to this matter of people who are acting. A lady came to my house on Friday night, on Sabbath, in tears. She's been working since 2014, I think. But she is still not appointed. She came to me in tears, Mr. Speaker, because she went to the bank on the 25th, on that same day, on Friday. And there was nothing in the bank by way of salary. And you know, Mr. Speaker, that hurt me. But it's not the first time that I've heard those stories. And I want to say here very, very clearly to those people responsible for paying the public officers of this country, it is almost, let me use a different word. It is reprehensible, because nasty is not a good word to use in this honorable chamber, but that's the way I feel about it. It is reprehensible for a person who is guaranteed to go to the bank on payday and find a salary not to be interested in ensuring that others who do not have the luxury of having been appointed can also go to the bank on the day appointed and find salary. That young lady lives in a house with 3 other people. She is the only breadwinner. And she had no money in her account. It has happened to her before. She has now come into a situation where the credit union that she's a member of will not extend any more credit because her credit history is not good. And her credit history is not good, not because she doesn't have a job, but because she's not being paid on time. This Barbados Labour Party government, and the reason why I am so happy and proud to be both a member of this party and a member of the government constituted by this party, is a party that faces these issues frontally. And so, even though some may say it reflects on us because we're in government, it is a matter that is causing people issues, and so it is a matter that we will speak to and address. And I just want to put those persons responsible on notice that we are not prepared to allow this kind of a situation to continue. It is mistreating people. It is not being fair to the ordinary, hard-working public officers of this country who are not yet appointed and who will hear from time to time that their names dropped off of Smart Stream or whatever it is. You know, that is just not the way you treat people. And this government is all about treating people properly. The Ministry of the Public Service, the Honorable Attorney General mentioned this as well, but the Ministry of the Public Service has to, once this is enacted, move swiftly. He already spoke to, we shouldn't say he, no? The Honorable Member. We are not that petty, so there's no issues on our side where that is concerned. But he already spoke to that. But I'm adding my voice to say to the Ministry of the Public Service, now that we've cleared, well, once this is passed, we would have cleared a significant portion of backlog. Once this is done, the Ministry of the Public Service has to get on with the work of dealing both with the anomalies that he's already identified, but also with the regular work of appointing people once they've been in the service for a particular period of time. And that is why we have not changed the 2007 legislation. We have brought a separate piece of legislation because that legislation is still in force. And so the Ministry of the Public Service has a responsibility to the human beings who are working in the public service, in the service of this country, to make sure they're treated properly and that they're treated in accordance with the laws of this country. Mr. Speaker, I think that I've said enough in respect of this piece of legislation. As one of the people's representatives chosen to speak on behalf of workers, I commend this bill to this honorable chamber. I commend this bill to the workers of this country. I commend this bill to the organizations who speak on behalf of the workers of this country and say to them that this is not the end of the road. As we recognize deficiencies in the treatment of workers, we will continue to bring to this honorable chamber any necessary pieces of legislation or any amendments to existing pieces of legislation that will seek to improve the lot of workers in this country so that they, Mr. Speaker, can get on comfortably with their work, with leading fulfilled lives, and with contributing significantly to the building of a better Barbados. I'm obliged to you.
Honorary Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of the sitting until 2:30 p.m.
The question is that this honorable chamber be suspended until 2:30 p.m. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. The ayes have it. This honorable chamber stands suspended until 2:30 p.m.